Hi. So, I've been debating on doing this video because, even though I only have like 30 subscribers, the internet is forever, and it's, regardless of how many people see you, whatever you put out there is forever. And so I always think, like, if someone I know stumbles upon this video, do I feel comfortable with them knowing this or not? And I think everyone should kind of take that attitude or that idea, because you kind of never know who can stumble upon what you're posting or whatever. But I think I've decided that I do, because it's something that, I don't know, I've had for like a long time, and I feel like some people might be able to relate to it. And I think that's the most important thing, is that, knowing that you're not alone. Because when I was a kid, I used to think that I was the only one who felt a certain way, and it's very debilitating and sad to think that you're the only one. And even though rationally you know that there's like 8 billion people on this planet, so you're like, the probability of me being the only one, but until you see it, you still believe that you're the only one. So hopefully someone else who's feeling the same way, or has this happen to them or whatever, can feel not as lonely and know that I am here for you. So with that said, I want to also kind of like preface that I have not been diagnosed with an eating disorder. Like, I haven't talked to this with a doctor, because usually I've gone for other things mentally, but never about my eating habits or issues. So I just kind of want to preface that. I don't want to like make it seem like I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Okay. So I don't know whether to start the whole entire let's talk about my life from a eating aspect, but I think I can give like cliff notes. So when I was the age of like 13, I'm 23, 13 to 12, I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I didn't know how to deal with negative emotions, so I would eat. Every time I was sad, every time I was mad, I would eat. And I would get anxiety, but I didn't know that I had anxiety, so I would eat as well. And so that led to me eventually getting overweight. And people would make fun of my weight, people would make fun of how I looked, kind of making it like, oh, no one's ever gonna like you, no one's ever gonna be attracted to you because the way you look, you're just, like, if you can see, I have hair on my arms, so like a lot of things that I had, people would say, oh, you look like a guy. And so that was crippling to me because I was like, oh my god, and I was a kid, so obviously that stays with you, and it's difficult. And so what I would essentially start to hate myself. Like, I hated my body. I thought I was disgusting. I thought I was a monster. Like, I would wear like long sleeves, I would wear jeans, I wouldn't wear shorts, I wouldn't wear anything that you could see my body, like my body form, like nothing like that. I didn't even look in mirrors. Like, it was tough. And so I started hyper focusing on my weight. At 15, for my quinceañera, I was like, I need to lose weight, and my dress was a little bit like, it showed the back, so I was like, I need to lose weight. So I started eating only salads. I like cut off food, and that is not healthy. And I would do these ridiculous diets to try to like lose the weight, and it just wouldn't work, because obviously I would kind of like relapse and eat a bunch of junk food because my body was starving because I wasn't giving it food. And then and it was this back and forth, and then I would cry and I would feel so sad. And I had put so much of my self-worth on how I looked, and I hated that. And so moving on to 16, I very much dissociated from my body and myself. Like, I was my person, but I didn't really notice my body until other people would point it out. I remember there was a presentation where I had to wear a leotard, a pink one, because I was a dolphin. I know it was, and I wore like a corset type of thing to like keep your body. And I remember a girl hugged me or something, and she said out loud, like, hey, are you wearing that? I was mortified. I felt so bad. I didn't want to do it. I think I ended up having to do it because it was a school thing, but I hated it so much. And people would make jokes about it, and people would be like, oh, you're really, like, you're fat, and very crippling for someone who is, I was a teenager, and that's like the most vulnerable years of your life, because you think everything is end of the world. And so when people are telling you, you're people in school, you're like, oh, well, this is what everyone's gonna think about. And it was very hard, and I just stopped caring about myself. I was just like, I would go to the doctor, and the doctors would be like, oh, you're overweight. And I was like, I know. I know. I know. So that every time I would go to the doctors, I'd be like, I know I'm overweight, we can move on with it. But then, moving on to age 17, I had a change of heart. I was like, I can't continue living like this. So I started doing what is like, I would look in the mirror and I would tell myself that I was, like, oh, you have a really pretty eyes today, or you look really nice. And I think is when you think you're a monster and you start looking at it, the mirror, you start seeing that. And so when you start talking nice about yourself, you see that and you're like, wow, I do look nice. It's just like, you need to rewrite your brain, because your brain is so used to you insulting yourself that that's the first thing it's going to do. I remember for the 17th, I was on my senior trip because I was graduating, and my sister was visiting, and we were going to go buy shorts because it was at, it was a place where there was a beach, and there weren't any shorts for me. Like, there wasn't, like, I was size 14, non-existent. I obviously hated shopping because there weren't clothes for me. So I would always wear leggings and like a long shirt because there just weren't clothes for me. And I remember feeling so defeated. I wanted to cry, and my sister was like, no, just take a deep breath, let's just go to this last store, like, I've always bought here. And like my sister, she has like a Coca-Cola body, which is like when you have like a very tiny waist and like hips, and like she's just like this, and my body was not like that. She was like, I've found clothes here, we'll find it. And we did. I bought 2 shorts, and I was like, cool, great. But my self-esteem wasn't that perfected. It was like on, it wasn't like on cement type of base. It was very like wobbly still, and so anything would set me off and just ruin my day. And just, I had an unhealthy relationship with food. I would either not eat or eat a lot, and the thing is, I used to have gastritis, so it's not ideal not to eat. And one day, me and my friend, we did a pact. We were like, we're not going to eat the whole entire day, which is insane. But we try to do it, and then obviously your body is like, hey, I'm starving. And I remember in 11th grade, which is a senior year, I had a notebook where I measured myself. Like, I measured my arms, my legs, my waist, my hips, I measured everything, because I wanted, after I worked out and like lowered how much food I wanted to see how much I like lost the weight. I remember one time my teacher found it, and I was like, but he never said anything. He never told the psychologist, nothing. He was just kind of like, is this yours? And I was like, yes. So having that like not healthy relationship, it transformed in kind of a weird way. Like, I would say it was this other voice that I had, like a voice separate from mine in my brain, telling me like, you're eating too much, or you're gonna get fat, or it starts chipping away at you, being like, because you start, like I said, you start putting your self-worth in your weight and how you look, and that is not a good thing to do. And I had done that, and I was slowly doing that again, because I felt so, like, I felt like I didn't have control. I felt like I was going with my life. So with my weight, I could be like, oh, I'm gonna eat this, but then I wasn't losing weight, and I felt like a fraud. I felt like a failure. And the thing is, I have other health stuff, but one of my stuff is that I have hypothyroidism, and you can't lose weight as easily when you have hypothyroidism. But for me, that wasn't like an excuse. I was still like, no, but I have to. And I remember when I was 18, my dad was taking pictures for my birthday, and I remember at night, I was downloading the pictures to my computer to see them, and I had never taken pictures of my body. I had never, like I said, I avoided looking in mirrors, and I saw those pictures from my dad, because my dad was taking from all angles. I cried because I was like, oh my god, I am fat. Because I hadn't associated my body with myself, in the sense of like, I hadn't looked at it. I avoided it, and so when I was presented with how I looked, I hated it so much. and I tried so hard to like eat right, to exercise. I went to a bunch of nutritionists, so their diets were from like, oh, you're gonna eat just fried food, like fried chicken, because the friedness of it will like cleanse your body. I had other doctors being like, oh, other nutritionists being like, oh, anxiety doesn't exist, you're just gonna eat just salads and just greens. And so these extreme diets did not work for me because I wasn't the type of person who could cut cold turkey. I just couldn't. I would go back to my bad habits of eating a bunch of soda, eating a bunch of candy, and eating a bunch of like greasy things. And it's because I knew that mentally I still wasn't that great, and so I would eat to feel, and not a good thing. And so when I was 20, I was getting better. I was more confident in myself. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I had to bury that voice, because the voice that I would have would be like, you shouldn't eat that. You really shouldn't. You're gonna get fat. You're gonna gain weight. You should. And I would obsess over the scale. I would weigh myself every day, being like, oh, I went up. Oh, I went every day, and I would take a note of it, and I'd be like, I weigh 60 something. I weigh 60 something. Like, I became obsessed with my weight on the scale, and I became obsessed with trying to control how much I weighed, how much I ate, how much, everything like that. And the voice would be like, don't eat. Maybe if you just don't eat, you won't gain weight. And so that is not healthy. And then at 21, I went through periods where I didn't want to eat. I just was like, but I ate, because I knew that food is there to sustain you. It's there for it to taste good. It's there for you to enjoy. And then I got sick. If you've seen videos of mine, I've talked about it, but I got sick. I projectile vomited, and I was sick, vomiting for like 2 days, and then I was sick for like a week, and then it domino affected, and then I was sick for a year, and it was this whole entire thing. But during that horrible time in my life, because I was not healthy, I couldn't eat anything, I couldn't hold down food, I used to weigh 70 kilos, and I dropped to 63 kilos. So I dropped 14 pounds. And I was kind of, not gonna lie, I was kind of happy. I was like, wow, I lost the weight. But I knew that my struggle wasn't going to be like, oh, I lost it. It was gonna be, how do I keep it like that? How do I not go back to who I was? And I remember that went like to the back seat when I continued to not being able to eat. I could only eat oatmeal, chicken, just with nothing, and soup. That was my meals, and it was every day the same thing, and I was so tired. And then our relationship with food changed into, I don't want to eat, I hate eating. And it's so like, because I know the privilege like of being able to eat, because I know there's a lot of people who can't eat, or don't have like the monetary things to eat like certain things, or just physically, and because of their health, they just can't eat. But at the same time, I just couldn't. Meals just turned into this just horrible thing of me forcing myself to it wasn't enjoyable. I didn't like it. It felt tedious, and it felt horrible. And I remember my relatives being like, oh, well, at least you lost the weight. Like, that's the silver lining. Like, oh, just give me your diet. I'm like, this isn't a diet. This is like the worst thing in the world. This is, people were like, oh, just keep the weight off. And me being severely sick, stomach just in shambles, and the most important thing in the eyes of other people wasn't that I was sick, it was, you lost the weight. And that was also crippling. And I always had to remind myself, what is important is that you're healthy. Yes, you lost the weight, but don't put your focus on that. Do not think of that. Think of that you want to be healthy. You want to eat fruit and be fine. You want to eat vegetables and be okay. You want to eat chicken and be fine. You want to be able to eat. And so it was about like 8 months of me just not the greatest relationship with food. And even now, I still eat pretty much the same, because for now, I'm like intolerant to certain things, so I have to kind of like teach my body or whatever. But I don't eat cheese, I don't eat meat, And where I live, a lot of things are have cheese and like milk, cow milk, cheese, and a lot of things have meat. And so I switch the same foods around, and so I get very irritated with food because I'm just eating the same thing. And then I have people telling me, oh, but you're not healthy enough. Oh, you're not getting enough nutrients. Oh, you're not doing this. But it's like, I can't eat those things, though. Like, I know that they make me sick. I know, like, the pain that I feel in my in my esophagus. It's not, you know, if it was a little pain, then I would eat it. But no, it's excruciating. And so having people just pick and pick and pick, and it's hard. And, like, even now, when I dropped from 63 kilos to 60 kilos, I was like, this is great. You know, I look amazing. I look great. Clothes are fitting me way better. I'm finding clothes. I can wear like crop tops. And so my brain, slowly but surely, that voice started coming out without me noticing it and being like, see, this is why you should skip a meal. And I physically could not, because my stomach, I needed to eat, and I eat at 9, I eat at 12, I eat at 3 or 4, and then I eat at 7. Like, I have hours of where I eat, because if not, the pain that I feel is excruciating. So I can't have the luxury of being like, oh, I just won't eat, I'll just skip a meal. I can't do that. And so that part of the voice telling me, you should, I mean, look how skinny you look how good you look. And it's so exhausting having to fight with that voice and telling it, no, you cannot control me, that's not what I'm trying to do. And especially when I've been, like, now I'm not you know, I'm getting better, and my stomach is tolerating more things, like, now I can eat sushi. But it was a hard year. It was a hard year, mentally, physically, and having people put the whole entire experience of, well, like, good thing is that you lost weight, is soul crushing. It's soul crushing. And I do become obsessed with making sure I don't eat certain things. I don't want to gain the weight back, so I'm like, if I want to eat a cookie, I will eat the cookie. Like, I try to, like, intuitive eat. I try to, like, you know what, if my body is being like, you want chocolate, I'm just gonna find a small chocolate and eat it. You know, I used to be able to be like, no, I'm not eating anything like that, I'm cutting it cold turkey. But then the craving would grow and grow, that I would eat like 20 cookies instead of just one. And so if my body's like, oh, I'm kind of craving spaghetti, I'll just eat the spaghetti. But like I said, it's hard sometimes, because sometimes that voice comes out and says, do you want to eat? Skip a meal, don't eat it. But, like, my brain also knows, hey, you can't get sick again. You need to take care of yourself. You need to eat right. You need to do, and it's hard when you have your own voice telling you that, and you have other people belittling you in a sense, because they're like, oh, well, why aren't you eating enough? Oh, why aren't you eating this? Oh, why don't you eat beans or something? And it's like, because I've had 2 bad experiences with excruciating pain, I'm not going to eat that. And I understand that you think it's very easy to just eat whatever you want, but for me, it's terrifying. Like, I'm afraid of eating. I'm afraid of eating things that I don't know, because 1, I'm afraid of projectile vomiting again. That was not fun. Hated that. Worst experience of my life. I don't want that to happen again. 2nd, I don't want the excruciating pain that I have that bends me over in fetal position. I don't want to experience that. And because of that, I'm afraid of eating. Like, every time, even eating foods that I know that I can tolerate, sometimes out of nowhere my esophagus hurts, and I'm like, and it goes away in an hour. So I know it's like my body's trying to readapt itself, but like, and I understand that people see it and they're like, oh my god, she's not eating enough nutrients or whatever, even though I eat fruit and vegetables and chicken. It's just it's hard, and having to battle with your own brain and being like, I need to prioritize my health, is hard. And like I said, I haven't been diagnosed with an eating disorder. I haven't gone to be like diagnosed, so like I haven't even opened those floodgates to that. But eating is hard. Separating that voice is hard. And it's hard trying to convince yourself, hey, you have to eat because it's healthy and you need to sustain yourself. It's hard when you're gonna eat lunch or dinner and you just don't know what you're gonna eat because there's no options, and you feel like crying and you feel horrible because you're like, I can't eat anything. It's a lot. Food, and like I remember one time I was like, food is like the whole entire day you're just eating, and so when you can't eat or when you're sick, or now where it's just like it goes up and down really. It's hard because the whole entire day you have breakfast, you have your snack, you have lunch, you have a snack, and then you have dinner. And I remember sometimes I wish I could just sustain myself with like a milkshake, but like no, that's not right. And so it's been a long process. I'm 23 now, so that's like 10 years of fluctuating relationship with food and my weight. And I want to say now, in regards to my weight, I do have those moments where I look at myself and I'm like, am I getting fat again? Because to me, I'm just talking about myself. To me, I like how I look now. I don't want to gain the weight back. I like how I look. And so I always have to make sure like that's not important. What is important is, am I eating too much junk food? Because either way I can't eat junk food, but my junk food would be like sugary food. Like, am I eating too much ice cream, or am I eating too much sugar, or am I eating too much chips or popcorn? Like, do I need to like cut it off a little? I need to the difference now is that I try to make myself aware of what I'm eating and be like, oh, I need to balance it. I need to balance it out. Because I remember 3-4 days ago I weighed myself and I was weighing 60.9, and I was like, I freaked out because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna weigh 61, blah, blah, blah. And then I weighed myself 2 days later and I was weighing back 60, and I was like, and I felt such relief because there is this fear in me of gaining that weight back, and it's so, I try to make sure that it doesn't overtake my entire thought process, because it used to be my whole entire thought process was food, what I was gonna eat, oh, is this gonna not sit well with me, am I sick, constantly on a loop, constantly, and that is debilitating and exhausting. And so now that I'm healthier and I'm getting better, and like I said, I've eaten sushi, which is cool. I couldn't eat sushi before. I try to be aware of it and try to tell myself, just take it day by day. Just take it day by day. And if you do, because sometimes I do feel overwhelmed about other people and myself, just cry about it. Let yourself cry. There's no bad about crying. Just cry it out. And after you cry it out, you're like, okay, we're good. We're gonna do the next day. Because I think people put a lot of like negative connotation of crying, because it's like you're weak. I've been told a lot that I'm weak because I cry, and now I've decided to, you know what? No, I'm not weak because I cry. I cry just because I'm a crybaby. Let me cry. I cry it out, and then I'm like, I have a fresh head. I'm like, okay, let's do this. You shouldn't feel bad about crying. Crying is a natural response to whatever, be it a sad thing, a happy thing, just cry it. So if you need to cry it out, cry it out. Yell at the universe, yell at the world, because you're like, why am I like this? Why am I thinking like this? And after you throw it all out there into the world, you're just like, okay, let's start over. And I know it's easier said than done. It's very hard. Like I said, building up back my confidence, building up who I am as a person, instead of what I see on the scale, how I see my body, instead of putting my worth on how I looked. It's hard, and it's a process that lasts years, but even though it sounds like I'm saying I'm not that great, I actually am happier, and I actually can enjoy myself and be like, I'm happy with how I look. I'm happy with how much time I did. Like, I used to, for example, makeup. I used to wear like foundation and eyeshadow and all that stuff, and I do sometimes, not foundation, but all the other stuff. And I remember I got to a point where I was like, oh my god, I'm using makeup as a mask. I would not use, and I didn't wear makeup, I would look at myself and be like, oh, I'm so ugly, and I was like, whoa, nope, can't do that. So I forced myself to stop using makeup and let my bare face for like a month or whatever, and then I would be like, oh, you do look pretty. Because if you're using these instruments for the wrong reason, they can cripple you. So like, if you're using makeup to hide who you are, that is not good. You have to really teach yourself to love yourself, and that's a hard thing, especially with media, with society. And society, I mean any type of society. You know, there is a construct of what beauty is depending on where you live, and also globally, and also your family. It's hard to be like, I love myself, and whatever you consider yourself to be, like I said, it's who you think is beautiful, and that's who you should be. Like, I don't want the message to be like, oh, because I said I think I look better now that I've lost the weight, that I think everyone should lose weight. That's not, no. If you think you look beautiful the way you are, then own it. Be it like that. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's what I'm trying to make it seem. That's why I'm saying that it's just me personally. I knew and feel comfortable having now been at, that is not a sentence, being now at 60 kilos and actually being in the weight where I'm supposed to be according to doctors, because, you know, healthy according to size, height, whatever. But I feel better. Like, I don't feel as tired, I don't feel as heavy, I can do things, and that is just me. And so I think the bottom line is just loving who you are, and that's the most important thing, because this body and your body is the body you're gonna be in for like 80-90 years. And treat your body well, because your body is, you can view it as your temple, you can view it as your vehicle, you can view it as whatever you want, but it's taking you places. It's your shell, and so take care of your shell, be it however you want to take care of it, you know. And so I think it's important, because not loving yourself is exhausting. And don't spend, like I spent from age 12 to like 21 not loving myself completely, and I feel like that's wasted time, because it is. So I don't want it to sound like I'm, you know, ordering people around, but try to love yourself. Try to make activities and challenges to love yourself. Challenges sounds very but like I said, I would wake up in the morning and I would compliment one thing about myself. It could be a physical thing, and then I would do it like, oh, I am really smart. You know, just work on building yourself up, because the only person who can build yourself up is you. You know, people get a relationship and they're like, oh, now I'm fixed. That's not how it works. You need to do it yourself. You need to be able to love yourself without anyone else around you giving you that motivation. Now, if someone tells you you're beautiful, you can be like, you know what, I trust that person, I am beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But also learn to build yourself up, because there's going to be moments when that person or those people are not going to be in your life. So you need to be able to know that you're strong enough when you're by yourself. Wow, this is a long video, but I feel better now that I've talked about it. I feel, it's like cathartic, is that the word? Where you're just like, I just said everything and everything's out there? I don't know, but so yeah, wrapping everything up, I hope this helps someone. I hope you don't feel as alone, because being lonely in this world is exhausting and it's crippling, and you think that there's nothing better. And so if there's someone who gets it, it's me. So hopefully you start loving yourself. Hopefully you start cutting yourself some slack and knowing that you are unique, because I know people say like, oh, that's not, no, every person is unique. Every person has their own personality, their own soul, their own way of thinking, their own way of seeing the world. So respect that, respect yourself, and do the best that you can for you. So thank you for watching this video. Yeah, hope you're having a great day.